Welcome to How to Draw with Levi Smith. Today we're going to be drawing a basic skull. At first here, I just want to run through a sped up version of this process, give you a general visual idea of how we're going to be moving through this skull drawing. This is just a straightforward, super basic skull. I'll be getting into other versions, other views, other styles and stuff in later episodes. So to start off, we just got some basic computer paper, a clipboard, and a plain Bic ballpoint pen. I would recommend that you could use basic pencil and an eraser so that you can erase a lot of your lines. So the first part of this process here for drawing the skull is just drawing a basic circle. None of this has to be like super perfect. And then down the middle of the circle, draw a line and then have that line pass out the bottom of the circle. Where that line intersects with the bottom of the circle, that's going to be, you're going to put a triangle there. That's going to be your nose, your nasal cavity there. Add in a couple of other larger circles off on the sides of that nose to fill out the sides of the circle. That will basically represent the general eye region. From there, you can add the teardrop that goes underneath and off of the nose. That shows your mouth area and stuff, the bottom of the chin. Just off the top of the nose, you're going to want to, that'll be a center line. You put these smaller circles on the inside of those larger circles, almost like fried eggs there. Just off the sides where the circle comes off, you want to bring down the jawline, which will connect to the bottom of the teardrop in there. Then from that, you basically got your face map built out. This is a method that I actually got from Rodgon. If you're interested in checking out his tutorials and stuff, they're really quite good. And this general facial structure, actually, I've borrowed from him. It's a pretty good one. From here, you can indicate where a mouth would go. All of these lines are meant to be really light, though, so that they can be really adjusted, drawn over, and have more heavier, deliberate lines added in over the top of that. And so from here, I want to indicate the full eye sockets. That's going to be a bit larger than these smaller circles that we put in the larger circles. The rest of that larger circle is going to function here to show us where our cheekbones and our eyebrow ridges are. You'll notice that the cheekbone will connect to that circle underneath and then move towards the nose. You'll just do that on both sides. A lot of this isn't meant to be perfectly symmetrical, but it is mostly symmetrical. So what you're going to do on one side, you're going to do on the other. Some of these points here are pretty straightforward and easy. As far as, say, adding in the teeth, you just want to start with a middle line and then kind of do these shapes, these like little teeth shapes, coming from the top and the bottom of the skull. There are the hollow parts of the cheek, and then you'll want to line out here where the jaw comes down. That jaw will come down from those bottom teeth straight down. That's pretty much where your chin is, towards the bottom of that teardrop. And then as you can see here, we have pretty much our general skull shape. You could stop here and people would recognize this, as a skull. But from this point, this is when you can start adding in some lighting tricks, some drawing, some shading, and really give this some volume and some depth. Now we're going to work on adding in some of these other various details. There is a nose ridge. We also want to fill in the nasal cavity, putting in a little bit of interior detail in there, and just kind of starting to shade in some of these zones here that we're going to have be nice and dark and filled in. So we'll start off with the nasal cavity and then move into the other areas, such as the eyes here. We're just going to fill in the eyes. And this kind of shading is just real basic, back and forth, just like a hatching kind of shading or a scribble type shading. I'm not really necessarily lifting my hand a lot for this sort of thing. I do use a variety of, I guess, like real messy, loose hatching methods so that I can slowly build up the dark areas, and then as I develop the piece out, give myself some additional room to decide how dark I want things to be, where the shadows are going to lie, and if I actually need to use any of this shading to, say, adjust or even correct parts of the drawing. I've created this light source here, and one of the things that this light source is going to do is it's going to kind of tell me where my light source is coming from. Generally, that works best if it's from an above area and off to the side. And then what this will do, and I've added in a few just quick indicator lines on the shape of the skull in a way to give it a bit of volume and accentuate some of the three-dimensional aspects of it. And so with that, I'm going to, and you can see that I'm still working lightly with some of the shading, is just quickly hatch out some indications of where the shadows are going to be, where this lighting is going to affect the piece. And I just go through it fairly carefully and then slowly build up and add in other details and stuff as I go. One of the other things that can have a strong effect in your drawing, and this can be applied to any drawing, is doing this kind of a lighting study. It's a little bit more complex than, say, like with just like a basic sphere, but doing this with the lighting study and then working up your details, working up your edge lines and stuff, the outer peripheral lines, where you can make those darker on the opposite side of your light source, which will indicate a heavier volume to the image that you're working on, and it can actually do quite a bit. Doing these kinds of studies with a slightly more three-dimensional, or maybe more than slightly three-dimensional of an object, will really give you a better idea on how to, say, just assume and invent shadows and lighting in a piece, especially if you don't really have a lot of reference to work from for the effect that you'd like to do. A lot of practice like this will give you a mental library of solutions that they're almost like math equations, and that when you do run into a similar scenario in another drawing where you've already solved it previously in a simpler drawing, it's easier to apply, it's easier to understand, and it becomes more effective. One of the things that we also want to stay in consideration here is general contrast, our relationship between our lights and dark areas. So when if we want an area to seem brighter, we need the details around it, or at least the shading around it, to be darker. The darker an area is, the brighter it makes the area next to it. The more we have gray areas next to gray areas, it really dulls down and minimizes and makes the volume of the piece quite a bit more subtle and flat in a lot of ways. So having really dark darks next to your lighter areas and stuff, that's one of the ways that you're going to get things to pop. That's one of the ways that you're going to get things to stand out in a way that's more eye-grabbing. I guess that would be the definition of pop. So working in a lot of these shadows and stuff, it is a process just of slowly building things up, taking a minute to look back, kind of consider where the next darkest area is. I tend to prefer to work in the darkest areas first, and we'll kind of work out from there. But I also do like to indicate a general lighter level of shading or hatching that helps me understand a lot of the planes of the object or of the image. And a lot of this kind of study and process here can be applied to just about anything. It's just that it's specifically applied for drawing skulls right now. I am going to be doing other how to draw skulls videos as part of a larger project where I want to do a number of skulls. Some of them will be more anatomic, some of them will be more cartoony, some of them will be more like edgy. And then so we can look at different angles, different processes, different considerations, and really get to not just how to draw, say, this skull, which is kind of what this is right now, but how to draw skulls in general. So as we get more confident and developed in the piece, as we're doing a lot of the shading, then we can go in and start to build up things in a much more dramatic way, build up that contrast, add in a few other details, generally work to make things more dramatic, and apply a little bit of stylistic choice that's at least a little bit more deliberate or pronounced. One of the things about style is that it's really dependent on your knowledge and the shortcuts you tend to use while you draw. So a lot of the things that you may have found a simplified solution to, a quick little swoosh of a line, or how you end up drawing your circles or your triangles or your squares, a lot of that on that fundamental level will build up and end up representing in your style. Also, as far as like knowledge is concerned, the things that you don't really know, that will inform when you're trying to draw them, that will inform your drawing that you don't really know how they look. So if you don't reference things, and as you're developing an understanding, say, of like the human form, those parts that you really don't understand will be the parts that turn out to be a little bit more confused, muddled, awkward, in ways that just kind of demonstrate that you don't know. Or you'll come up with a shortcut that's designed to hide the fact that you don't understand how to solve that particular part. So in drawing this skull, I didn't necessarily want it to look evil. I didn't want it to look too happy. I didn't really even want to go with something that was super anatomic or overly stylized in the way that you would expect to see something for a sticker or a tattoo or a cartoon. Those are different interpretations that I do want to explore in further skull videos. And for this one, I did really want to just go for the straightforward, the most simple kind of way. And it'll also even show you how a face is laid out, and hopefully possibly help out with struggles if you happen to be trying to figure out how to draw faces as well. Which a lot of these, understanding how the skull works underneath the skin is huge to really being able to draw a face as well and make them expressive. One of the things I do like for my skulls generally is for them to be expressive. So we're just going to do the final bit of shading and darkening here through this piece, just making sure that the contrast is punched up, the regions, and you can even see just how more dramatic it gets, as the eyes get darker and as these other regions become more pronounced, and it becomes so much easier to read the image and its representation. And so now that we are at the end of the video, I would like to thank you for watching along. Feel free to comment on the video if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if there's anything that you think was confusing or bad. I would love to hear it so that I can actually improve what it is that I'm doing and stuff here with these, trying to demonstrate basic drawings. Also, I'd love for you to check out my All Skulls coloring book. It is a collection of a lot of my skull art and stuff. It's available on Amazon. The link is in the description, as well as my t-shirt designs and stuff, which are available on my website store, jademonkey.net. And that would be awesome if you bought my stuff, supported this whole thing, or at least gave it a like and a subscribe. So we'll check you out in the next one. Later.